I had been up for, I think, about 7 or 8 days, and I couldn't get to sleep, and I had to be to work in like 5 hours, 6 hours. And Travis told me that if I did a little bit of heroin, that it would take the edge off, and that I would come down and go to sleep and be able to wake up and be fine.
So she asked if she could do a shot. I said yeah, and I put like maybe $3 worth of heroin, and she didn't tell me she was allergic to opiates. So when I gave her the shot, she overdosed.
He'd barely put like 2 cc's in my arm already, because I had him do it for me, and it didn't feel right. And I told him, I was like, something feels wrong.
When the police came, the first responders were 2 police officers, and when they got here, she was dead. Even younger, when she was in her early teens, she would get real moody. and I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I don't know if she was unhappy or what was going on, but she would get really moody. We noticed a real change when she got to be about, I don't know, before she was 18. She was in a thing at church, Christmas program. There was no writing on the wall of what was going to happen, what was coming on.
Travis growing up he was actually a shy kid. I mean, he was quiet, reserved. He was always very tall for his age and bigger than the other kids. However, he was very, very kind, very gentle. Travis was always the guy that says, I love you. He was always the hugger. He never, he was just a touchy guy. He is the kind of kid that when he had his friends around and we'd go to church, he would say, hey Mom, you got to get them saved. They need to come to church. And before they'd even get out of the car, they'd have to pray. And that's the kind of guy he was.
I first started using heroin. It was right after my divorce. I was taking pain meds and stuff from an accident for my back, but after my divorce and not seeing my son and her getting remarried and stuff like that, it kind of destroyed me because I've always wanted to be married and have a family. I couldn't really keep that together. So some so-called friends introduced me to heroin and started from there.
I started shortly after Travis and I met. So I was 19 at the time, I think, just shortly after my 19th birthday.
I remember just the tingles I would get through my whole body, the top of my head, the burning sensation, and then my eyes kind of just rolled in the back, and I wasn't depressed anymore. I actually felt pretty good. I felt like I was floating, and
even when I first started doing it, I'm like, wow, this is what it is. Like, I thought I was like Gandhi, all these realizations, like, I could hear the birds and I could, see the wind blowing and all this stuff. And I was like, this is what it's like. We were right here to the right of the front door, where the blinds are pulled down next to the little lighthouse.
There's a couple instances where I was in the house in Mill Plain, and I never really left the room. I kind of just stayed in there. There was a lot of times about suicide and stuff like that, and I remember getting some heroin, and I had quite a bit, and I was thinking about just doing a really big shot to see if I would go out. I remember getting a text from Pastor Bill, and we were texting. But when we were texting, I looked out the window and he was there at the house. I remember him knocking on the door, but I never answered it.
I knew they were in there. Just told him, through the door, we're ready to help you if you're ready. They didn't answer the door. Well, you want to help, and you would love for them to just walk out and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Let's go get clean. But it's not that easy. It really is their choice.
I remember doing the shot, and it didn't do anything. I was upset, but I was relieved. It's kind of a weird feeling that you get when you're thinking about, like, oh, it could kill me. But then when you do the shot and it doesn't even really get you high, I really believe, from my parents in my church and everybody praying for me and stuff like that, God's hand was over my life. I really believe that, because usually the shots I was doing would kill somebody.
I believe in divine intervention. I believe his parents are praying for him. We're all praying for him. I actually had a dream that he died with a needle in his arm shortly after I met Travis. And I went to him and shared that with him. And I told him, you really, it's not like I'm some kind of prophet or something, but that was a weird situation for me. And I told him, I said, you need to take this seriously.
At first it was the numbness I got from it, to where I didn't think about my past. Then it got to just the point of buying it and cooking it up. And it sounds weird, but I would almost get that high as I was loading my syringe up before I injected it.
The addiction for me came to a point where it wasn't even about what the high felt like. It's the process of pouring it on the spoon, of adding the water, of watching it dissolve. That's kind of like my eyes light up on Christmas just thinking about it. The lowest point is when, really what I've come to in the last couple of months, where I just want to end it.
It was when I was living under 205 Bridge. I had no coat, no nothing, no socks. I had blisters on my feet from walking miles and miles and miles. I was high. It got to the point, it was like my birthday. It was right before my birthday. It's when I realized I needed to get my life straight, because I woke up at 1 a.m. just screaming, crying at the park just because I was so cold. Realizing I haven't talked to my son. It's just the drug gets a hold of you, and pretty soon you're lost.
Every day that the sun comes up, it's a fight for my life, to convince myself why I should still be here and what I have left to strive for. Because all I can see is all the negative, all the legal issues, all my family turning their backs, everything else, and that's it. I just sit there and convince myself that I'd be better gone.
So I kind of thank God that I did hit rock bottom like that, because before I'd never really had self-worth for myself. And then in that moment, I was just like, I deserve a little bit better than this. And from just that little seed and thought, God's really moved in my life. And I see the man that I'm supposed to be,
Until people really reach their bottom, it's hard for them to succeed until they really get sick and tired of doing the deal. And once they get there, and there's that sense of urgency that I don't want my life to be like this anymore, then that's probably at the point where we can help them the most. I see growth in Travis. He wants more than anything else to beat this, and so I really feel like he's going to make it.
My son he's the one that keeps me going. I'll call, he'll walk up to me and tell me that he's proud of me, and he's not really sure why, but he can tell that I'm happy and that I wasn't happy before. I wake up every day smiling, just knowing that he's gonna call me, or I'm gonna call him and see him, and it's sad how that drug can take your vision or your heart away from even important family members as your children.
There was a time when I had to choose Parker over Travis as a grandparent. And that's a really hard time because Travis, Parker is just a little boy. And Travis knew that I would help take custody away, that I would do whatever I had to do to protect Parker from Travis's self-destruction. Now that I see him with Parker, Travis is an amazing dad. I mean, he loves his son with all his heart. And I think that if it weren't for Parker, Travis, we would have already buried him.
And then I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, like I miss that feeling. And then I start thinking about my son, and I start thinking about, I got my license back, and jobs are coming, and I'm finally getting on my feet again. And so it erases that. And usually when thoughts like that come up, I'll either sit down and I'll open my Bible, or I'll start praying, or I'll call somebody for support.
I'm not really in contact with Mandy. My wife's more involved with her. She chats back and forth on Facebook and texting, and I think Mandy's, I think she wants to do it. I think she's still sort of out there a little bit.
I can't take a lifetime of this. I have too many dreams, too many goals for myself. I have, ambition. There's things that I want to accomplish in my life. And right now, I don't even know if I'll have a family. I wanted to have kids and be married by now. I wanted to be a heart surgeon. But because of doing drugs, my hands don't stay steady, so I don't want to be that, oh, whoops, we lost another one. So I want to be an ER nurse. And that really came into play when I overdosed, because I had thought about it for a while, but hadn't really decided. And then the nurses that I had encounters with while I was in the hospital in 2011, they are what made me decide so quickly overnight. I was like, that's what I want to do. It almost kind of puts closure to it, what we just did. So there's like a lot of hurt happened in that house, and a lot of things to each other. So it's kind of good.